Guys, it's Blue Emerald, bringing you an album review of Dangerkids' Blacklist. And this is seriously an underrated band. Like, they deserve a lot more credit than they get. They really deserve to be much bigger than they are. They're really good, and I would recommend checking them out if you've never heard them before. They're like heavy metal, like Linkin Park, but heavier. Like old Linkin Park, like Hybrid Theory, but heavier. They're really good. Anyway, this is their newest album, their second album, Blacklist. And this is really, actually, in my opinion, this is probably better than their first one. Because the first one had a lot of screaming in it, and I'm perfectly fine with screaming, but I don't like it when it's constant, like in heavy doses. I know, obviously, there's some bands that do that and it works, but the type of music that Dangerkids makes, I'm not certain if that's the way they go all the time, just full on screamo. But anyway, they kind of cooled it down with this album, but it's still heavy as fuck. And you will immediately realize how heavy this song is as soon as it starts off with Kill Everything. And this song is actually really well done. I feel like the second verse could have been written better. But outside of that, I really don't have any complaints. The electronics and the guitar work really well together, especially in the bridge. The rapping works with the singing really well. I really like how they stylized that. That's really done well. And you can really hear how angry the rapper is throughout the entire piece. Actually, both of the singers, you can really hear the anger in their voices. And it's really good. And then it goes into Blacklist. And my only complaint about this song is where it's placed on the album. It should have probably opened it and Killed Everything could have been like the second song, but I feel like Blacklist would have been better as the opener. Otherwise, I love how heavy the transition into the verses, the screaming, the rapping, everything just comes together beautifully in this piece. The electronics, especially how it goes like there's like an electronic effect to make it soft and then immediately slam you as soon as it exits the chorus and goes into the transition part. I love that. And it is an amazing, a really good song overall. Next up is Inside Out, not Outside In. What the fuck? Inside Out. I love the key change at the end. I love the idea behind it. I'm not entirely sure they quite did it correctly, but I really love the idea behind it, and I would like to hear them do something like that again. That was really cool. You don't hear that often in this type of music, but these guys did it. The first verse is really good, and I love how the second verse transitions into the chorus. However, there are some faults with this song, namely, the transition into the bridge is that's just no, I do not like that at all. That should not have really been there, or it should have been done differently. And Inside Out actually would have been better with more screaming in it. It feels like one of those songs where the screaming would have been more appropriate, but they don't really do it too much in this piece, and I'm a little bit disappointed on that one. The next one is Crawl Your Way Out. And the intro is really, it's much heavier than it needs to be. That seems to be a trend. The band tries to make something that's, apply the song heavier than it's supposed to be, and it doesn't really work out. Crawl Your Way Out being the first real example of that. The pre-chorus and the second verse downright sucks. That shouldn't even be there. Why was that? No. I'm not even sure how you could fix that. Just remove it. But I do love how that little part that shouldn't be there does transition to the chorus beautifully. And I love how the bridge builds back up, which is something that we talked about a lot on Hybrid Theory, how sometimes the bridge is a little bit quiet and it builds back up. That's always really awesome. And Crawl Your Way Out's another good example of that. Things Could Be Different is by far my least favorite song in the album. It's the only one that I could point out and say, this song is bad. There's a couple that I'm like, this song's mad, but this is the only one I could really point and say, this song sucks, it should not have been the lead single. I absolutely hate the bridge, that is completely unnecessary. The electronic scream thing that they go with, no, it does not work, never do that again. there's way too much screaming on this piece. You should probably transfer some of that screaming over to Inside Out. And it's really ironic because the ending could have actually seen more screaming than it has. That would have been a good spot for a little bit of screaming. But no. The intro is too fast. The chorus is good, but that's really all it has going for this song. The chorus is good, but they should have reworked it with like a entirely different, except with the chorus. Ghost in the Walls is really well done. I do really like this piece. If anything, it actually feels too short. The rap in the bridge and the chorus and everything works really well together. And this is something I really applaud them for. Ghost in the Walls is something that doesn't get too soft, but doesn't get too heavy either. And there aren't too many songs like that on this album. It was like a trend where like they'd have something that's a little bit too heavy, and it would ruin it a little bit. Nothing Worth Saving, exactly like I was saying, the intro is a bit heavier than it needs to be. It's a little bit ridiculous. But I do love the verses and how they really build up into like a really powerful voice, and I really love this song. The next song on here, Singularity, this is just like a little bit of an intermission type piece. The drum and the electronics work beautifully together, and I feel like this probably was the best part to put Singularity, because it kind of works as an introduction to the next song, Summoner's Rift, which is really good for the most part. The screaming in the verse is unnecessary. That shouldn't be there. And that screaming should be moved to the second verse, I think. But outside of that, the chorus is really strong, and I really love how everything pretty much fits together really well. It's a really strong piece, and they're really good. These guys are really good with writing really heavy guitar riffs and making them work really well. These guys are like the masters at it. Possibly even better than Linkin Park, and that's saying something. Coming from a Linkin Park fan. This next song is Glass on Water, and this is one of my favorite songs on the album. My absolute favorite is Nothing Worth Saving, but this is my second favorite, a very close second. It really doesn't get too heavy. It stays where it needs to be. It doesn't get too soft. It doesn't get too heavy. I applaud them for that. Glass on Water is another example of them, of kind of like an off song because of that. The verses and the chorus work really well together, are really strong. The electronics are really good as well. I really like how they included those and the way they're included. Like mixing them up and everything with the vocals and everything. And my only complaint is that the instrumental changes in the last chorus, and it's a change that I'm not really exactly fine with. It changes in the second chorus as well, but that change I'm fine with. But changing it from like to no, don't do that. That did not sound good. In the second verse it was to like faster but not over the top. And that's what I like. I really like Glass on Water. That's a really good song. Really has some really like it really has meaning, and you can tell there's a lot of these songs have meaning, and you can really tell that there's meaning in them, and you can really tell that like this a lot of this is genuine. There's only one song I can think of. I can't think of the name of it, but there's only one song that I could point at and say this does not sound completely genuine, but everything else you can't really tell. It sounds fully genuine. You can really hear the anger. And when you know the backstory, you can see how it's kind of angry for them to be like this, because the previous record label didn't wanted, I guess, the first album to sell more or something than it did, and they got so pissed at them, like they pretty much like said, "Fuck you, middle finger, you're out," type thing, like absolute assholes. And this entire album kind of feels like just a roast on them. Like a good chunk of the album feels like it's a roast on them, and it's really good. I really like this album. And finally, it ends with Invincible Summer, which is Not hard at all. It's not metal or anything. It's acoustic guitar and vocals. That's it. And it looks really well. The harmony, the melodies, they work beautifully together. There was only one time where I noticed that they clashed. I can't remember when that was, but I really like this piece a lot. And it's really good to end on this note. Like we're the kids that never let it go type thing, so just let it go. I really like how it ends with that. That is a really solid end to the song, to the album. And I'm in love with this album, like straight up. I really like this album. So like my general thoughts about this album, Kill Everything and Blacklist probably should have been swapped, because Blacklist would have been a better opener than Kill Everything. But that's really the only thing I can notice I really noticed in terms of the set list. The band also has a tendency to make things too heavy. I talked about that earlier. They tend to try to make it a little bit like more metal than it needs to be in some songs, and it kind of ruins the song a little bit, but not enough for me to like really say, okay, because you did that, this song completely sucks. It's not near that level, but it's still like, is it like, oh my god, why would you do that type thing. So overall, I wouldn't quite say this is Linkin Park level. I wouldn't say this is Hybrid Theory level, but it's close. So I have to give this album a rating of 4 out of 5 stars. And I would seriously recommend, if you guys like old Linkin Park or like the new metal stuff, you are going to love this album, and actually the first one if you're into the more like screaming stuff. They are a really good band. They deserve more recognition than they get. And it's kind of sad to see them not be as popular as they should be. So yeah, that's it for my album review of Blacklist. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Next time we are going, there's no poll or anything this time, because I already know that the next one is going to be Damn by Kendrick Lamar. So yeah, you guys, as always, you guys can put in suggestions for like what album should I do next, and I'll consider making that as one of the options for the next poll, or like for the next group. So yeah, that is it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I already said that, but my name is Blue Emerald, signing off. Good night, everybody.